Ace Podcast.
He doesn't know how to use the 3 seashells. I can see how that could be confusing.
Thanks a lot, you shit bird.
You are flying for repeated violations of the verbal morality statute.
So much for the seashells. See you in a few minutes.
Blood and Black Rum Podcast presents Demolition Man. Hey guys, welcome back to the Blood and Black Rum Podcast. I'm Ryan from themoviesdeadworld.net, and I'm joined with my co-host Martin.
How's it going?
And we're back with a new episode. We're on to episode 62 now, so woohoo! We're getting up there into the upper levels of podcast episoding, I guess.
Haven't been canceled by NBC yet.
That's right. No cancellations in the near future. That's probably because we don't get paid for this, so there's no money exchanging hands, no no income to speak of. But we do it for the listeners. We do it for you guys. So it's always a pleasure. It's always a pleasure to spend a Wednesday night when I could be out drinking or something. And
Well, you wouldn't be doing that anyway.
no, that's true. I am an old man.
You are. So
You know what I would be doing?
and you act like it's like a hot nightlife.
No, I know. Wednesday nights.
I could be, gallivanting and trolloping around
I
the city.
would be out with trollops. You're right. On a Wednesday night, what would I be doing? I would probably be watching a movie anyway. Probably having a little bit of whiskey with it.
A rerun of Better Call Saul.
I still gotta watch that.
I missed it. I upset that I missed it. I wasn't paying attention before I knew. I can't remember what the hell. I was watching something.
Yeah.
And before I knew it, I was like, shit.
Well, you're not caught up yet.
No, I am.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
I haven't watched season 2
I
yet.
watched season 2 in 2 days on Netflix when it came on.
Is it still worth it? Still good?
Yes.
Very good. I gotta watch it still. I haven't had a chance to.
It's great.
Been watching the Wishmaster collection right now, so I'm going through all the Wishmaster movies because I gotta review it for the Moon is Dead World. So. But anyway, we're back today. Last week when we left you, actually Martin left to take a piss while I was ending the podcast episode, so we didn't really have a chance to bounce any ideas off of each other. I didn't know what we were going to be covering for this week's episode, and we kind of just came up with on the fly that would be covering the Stallone Snipes duo of Demolition Man, and I've never seen it before. So
I've seen it many times.
And I'm surprised that I've never seen it before because I'm sort of a big fan of the late 80s, 90s action movies. And it's kind of caught me off guard that I've never seen Demolition Man.
Well, it's sci-fi too. So
it is sci-fi too.
That would have been for you.
No, not really. I mean, I like sci-fi, but it's not like my number one go-to genre of film. I would much rather Actually, you know what I like is I like horror sci-fi more so than action sci-fi. So I don't know. It's not really much of a distinction, but at the same time, I would say I like Terminator a lot.
Oh yeah.
But again,
Terminator's great.
The first one, some people consider it almost like a slasher film.
It is a horror
in a way.
film.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, it's like a slasher film.
It's a sci-fi horror film. No, you're right. Terminator. That's why I think we've talked about before on the podcast.
Yeah, we have a little bit.
When it comes to the Terminator films, everyone loves Terminator 2. I think it's the greatest.
Yeah.
I love the Terminator more than I love Terminator 2.
I love both, but I think I like the Terminator a lot more than
No, I'm
Terminator
not saying
2.
I don't like Terminator 2. I love Terminator even more though. Because it's just the way it is. How it's dark and brooding and just it's scarier. Terminator 2 is just but at this point it's you see Arnold Schwarzenegger doing his, shtick of being Arnie.
Yeah.
So, and being an action movie.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's it's fun, great action, but I don't think it's better.
Yeah, I agree. I would agree with that. I don't think it is either. I like the Terminator a lot. But anyway, that's kind of where I'm getting at is that I like more of a sci-fi horror scenario. And so I think that I probably skipped over Demolition Man, and I was talking to you about this previously. Because of the cover, I didn't really... I'm one of those people... I get drawn in by covers, and that is partially due to the fact I remember Demolition Man. I remember seeing the cover art for it because I've talked about it a little bit before, but my dad owned a video store. I remember seeing it in his store as a VHS, obviously, at that time. But it just never really caught my eye. You know what I mean? It was kind of... basically, the cover art is just Wesley Snipes and Sylvester Stallone facing off with like a bluish background.
That's all you need.
Yeah, in a way, but at the same time, it just didn't really capture my attention like even the Terminator or Terminator 2 would have, and more so the horror section. But I don't know, yeah, just something about it.
To be fair, horror movies have to have a good poster because most of them are pretty crappy.
If there's not a naked woman on it, or like scratches or something, and a knife, then yeah, it's missed its mark on that one.
No, like horror movies have to have, for the most part, like a good poster because most of them are so loose budgeted and loosely like kind of thought of in concept. It's like, this is how we're gonna lure people in. Demolition Man, you don't need anyone to lure you in except Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah,
he's a household name. Well, you could just have Stallone and like play like a black and white poster. Just say Stallone, Demolition Man. Who's gonna make money?
Yeah, I'm the same thing with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like we were looking at Total Recall's cover artwork. Yeah, that's pretty much that movie.
Yeah,
with a blue cover, just like this one.
White font, though this one's silver, but I mean, still, like, it's...
Yeah, this is, like, mimicking the same style. Like, you know what you're in for when you see the cover art, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it just never really drew me in, but Stallone's films in general, like, never drew me in. I can see how they would draw other people in, but it's not, it was never really, like... It's a Stallone film. I've got to go see it. You know what I mean? Not in the way, like, it was with Arnold Schwarzenegger, where I was, like, back in the, I don't know, it was either late 90s or early 2000s, where it was like, well, Collateral Damage is coming out. Arnold Schwarzenegger's in it, and I've got to go see that. It wasn't...
I'm so glad you picked that movie. Because I remember seeing that like on DirecTV, at a friend's house. That's great.
Yeah,
but no, it's different because by the mid and late '90s, Stallone's still doing action films. What's Schwarzenegger doing? Jingle All the Way with Sinbad.
That's true.
Turbo Man, and
Twins.
Well, no, that was before. That's early.
That was the early '90s.
But I mean,
he's been making a switcheroo.
Well, he's been doing other stuff. Yeah. Stallone wasn't. Stallone, like, after this, Copland and a couple other more, action-oriented films, so...
Yeah.
That's why I think you'd, like, probably be more appealing to Arnie, because, like, Jingle All the Way comes out in 97, 98, you're 7, 8 years old.
That's true.
You want to see a Christmas movie, you're like, the funny man speaks goofy.
Yeah, that's... yeah, that's true. Yeah, Jingle All the Way was a big thing in my household.
Oh,
had it on VHS, taped off TV.
I have the actual VHS.
Oh, okay.
Still.
Well, we were cheap at that time. My dad was like, pop in a blank VHS tape. I've got a lot of them from the store. that was pretty much what we were doing in the 90s. Is bootlegging things from TV and that's funny. I mean, it's this is off topic and everything, but I never really saw the actual like unedited version of Christmas Vacation for years because we would always have the edited version off TV and with like Christmas commercials and all. It's kind of interesting. I mean, it's not really off topic in this scenario because like those are kind of those 90s commercials are kind of nostalgic to me just because of that, like because of like having those VHS tapes where...
See the difference between commercials today and...
Exactly, and I mean, that makes... that's a perfect segue into, like...
How half the commercials are 1-800-COLLECT commercials?
Yeah, that... But in this film, Demolition Man, that's a huge thing about, like, the future is that they are, like, very nostalgic about the past. They love, like...
well, one person.
They love commercial jingles. They love the history of the past. In much the same way that we have now co-opted like 90s stuff into like everyday life. Like that's a huge thing about vaporwave now. I don't know if you know about like vaporwave, the genre, but it's very much about like co-opting like 80s and 90s stuff and making that into like music or artwork. And very much, like what we've been doing now is very apparent in this film, in Demolition Man. And I think that it's kind of an interesting scenario because at the time, I don't really think that they knew exactly, like any contemporary audiences knew exactly what kind of reach and stuff that Demolition Man would have like in the future, because it's actually, a lot of it is kind of accurate.
It's shocking how much like of the stuff they kind of got like
they got right in it, like self-driving cars and video,
iTablets.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Video communicate.
I mean, it's not like out of place within those kind of science fiction, films of that nature. They kind of all had a similar idea of like what the future would be like, but at the same time, it's very reminiscent of like what we have now. There's a lot of stuff in here that we really do have, or we have created that's very similar to that. All right, so enough about Demolition Man for right now. Let's talk about the beer that we're drinking, because
It's fancy.
yeah, it's the fancy stuff. It's not the usual craft beer selection that we have on the podcast. We went a little different direction this week, although it's not that unusual for us to focus on a non-craft beer, because we like to include those too. We taste test like the more generic stuff, the domestic lagers and stuff like that. It's not that unusual. So this week we've got Michelob Ultra. I don't think we've ever had it specifically on the podcast.
No, we have not.
I mean, obviously we've had it before, but not on the podcast. And one of the reasons that we have this is because I'm counting calories.
So am I.
We're bettering ourselves. And as
one beer at a time.
That's right. And as the commercials suggest, you can do this and then also like do 60 push-ups at the same time. You can drink Michelob Ultra and then do 60 push-ups and you'll be good. You'll be
if you're doing
healthy.
If you're doing 60 push-ups, you're not drinking a fucking beer.
Nah, that's true. You're not putting on calories by drinking a beer.
It's like those things like, hey, let's run a marathon at the end, like, like the Boilermaker in Utica. Like, oh, you finished the Boilermaker, like...
Have a beer?
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
last thing I want after like possibly running a 10K is a fucking Saranac,
actually, Project 29, our local bar...
gastropub.
They did have a run like that. I don't know how far it was. I was thinking it's probably like a 5K or something.
Anything
like that.
higher than like a 5K or higher, I would have no interest at the end of it. Like, yeah, give me a beer. I'd be like, water.
Yeah,
Aquafina.
I can't see myself drilling like a stout. If they came out and were like, well, we got stouts for you today, and be like, oh, I think I'll just go vomit in the bushes then. No, I probably could drink a light beer, but nothing heavy, definitely. Actually, though, to be honest with you, like, I ran almost 4 miles yesterday. I didn't really feel like I needed water. Even though, like, I'm that kind of person, though. I don't really, like, drink a lot of water, even though I should. I never really feel like I need water that much, even until I'm actually dehydrated, and I'm like, shit, I should have drank some more. I should have had some water. I got a fucking headache. It's bad.
Well, I spend my day carrying around a bottle of water.
Yeah, I know.
Or seltzer, just pounding.
I know. It's not good for you to not drink water, but that's just me. But, so we got Michelob Ultra on the podcast today. I had it before. I do like it quite a bit in terms of generic domestic beer. It's probably not my first choice because it is on the pricey side for what you get.
It's $14.63 for this 12-pack.
Yeah. And like that's not that far off from like a craft beer line. If you were to for around here, if you were to buy like Saranac or Sam Adams at the sale price at a supermarket, that's going to be about the same price. You're going to hit the same price for that. So in that case, I would probably go with the craft beer. But if I wanted something cheap and domestic, but also what I like drinking, I would probably go with the Miller Lite.
That's my favorite light American beer.
And actually,
It's by a mile, to be honest with you.
it's very, yeah.
I mean, I haven't had Michelob Ultra in probably 2 years. And, you know, I mean, I drink it, and it's like, yeah, it's good. And surprisingly, it's got a much better taste than Bud Light.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Much better. Like
I would say Bud Light is by far my least
worst.
favorite beer.
The worst, but
Yeah.
it's nothing but water. But this actually has a very slight maltiness to it, but not only that, a sweetness. And I don't know if it's because I haven't had like food in like a couple of weeks, but like my taste buds like instantly pick up like a nice like sweetness from it and a corn sweetness, and it's good, and I like it a lot.
I gotta say that I think that Mick Ultra does have less of a body, less of a noticeable taste than Miller Lite, which is why I prefer Miller Lite over Michelob Ultra. I think that this one, it does have some flavor to it, but I would prefer it to have just a little bit more flavor and beer body to it, because like you said, these go down really easy, really fast, but that's not always necessarily a good thing, because there's not really that much to it. It's not a complex drinkable beer like that. It's,
And then before you know it, you're like, if you are counting calories, like, oh,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Now, like, you are like 5 in. I'm like 4 in. At this point in a normal podcast, we're like 2 or 3 in. So yeah, you've basically just doubled the amount of beer you've drank, wherein now you've hit the same amount of calories. But, you know,
Yeah.
And for these beers, Michelob Ultra is 95 calories. Thinking about how much a different beer, like a craft beer, might have for calories, I'm going to say like maybe a craft beer has like 130.
No, higher.
You think it's higher than that?
Higher. Light beers, like Coors Light and Bud Light, have like 130 calories.
So you think like a craft beer would be more like 200 calories?
Almost. Like I said, Jenny Cream Ale is like 180 calories, 160 calories, or some shit like that.
Intriguing. I wouldn't think that a craft beer would have that many calories, but maybe
then again,
I've never really measured.
Like
so.
I said, like, well, I haven't either. But then again, I don't think a lot of them have posted anything like about it really, because
Yeah, it's not really something that you
like a concern. But Budweiser and like Coors might be like, hey, we'll post our regular and our light and all that, because that's what people are gonna be concerned about. But
I don't know.
I mean, they don't have to. It's beer. They don't
That's
have
true.
to. They don't have to post nutritional facts.
There's no nutritional facts on beer really, but you know that we're getting old when we're posting about how we need to drink Michelob Ultra for the lower calories.
I mean, outside of Miller Lite, this might be my second favorite light beer.
I think so. I mean, it's very.
I like this more than like Mick Light, and I
don't know if I've ever had Mick Light.
I've had Mick Light because I remember because I bought it and I tried it because I remember talking to my dad one day and saying that's like the beer of his choice as a youth was Mick Light. He liked Michelob Light. And I bought it. And I'm like,
It's okay.
It's a beer.
Yeah.
The Mick Ultra, I'm like, yeah, no, it's
well,
no lighter light beer.
I mean, I think if I had to pick between the major domestics, it would be Miller Lite, then Mick Ultra, then Labatt Blue, then Coors.
That's not domestic though.
Well, it's not domestic, but
it is like domestic.
Yeah, basically. But and counting it in like the major brands that we have. Then after Labatt Blue, then Coors, then Bud regular, and then Bud Light, I guess, would be my picks. That's not counting obviously the flavored beers like Bud Light Lime, which would be higher up because that lime makes all the difference It really does. It really does. That makes it go from like, this is kind of okay to like, wow, this is pretty good. I was gonna drink a few of these. I honestly, that is like the way that I feel about it.
I think we just lost half our
Yeah.
audience. Like,
Hey,
you like Bud Light Lime?
on a hot day, I would absolutely go for a Bud Light Lime.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, you're right. That lime makes all the difference.
It does, yeah.
I mean, for me, it would be like Miller Lite, Michelob Ultra, Coors Light, Busch Light.
I didn't even count Busch Light and
Bud Light, and then Jenny Light. Because Jenny Light's an abomination. And if you listen to the podcast, you would know.
Yeah.
We love us some Jenny beers over here. But Jenny Light is just the worst thing ever.
That's true. But there you have it, folks. Michelob Ultra ranks number 2 for both of us.
And I'm not even counting Michelob Light, because fuck that.
Yeah, I didn't count that either. I didn't count, like, Miller High Life or anything like that either.
Well, High Life's not a light beer. It's a...
No, it's not a light beer, but in a generic domestic beer.
Well, I mean, if you're talking about like Miller 64 and Bud Select 55, who gives a shit? No one drinks that. I was like, oh, Bud Ice. Who wants a Bud Ice? Like,
do you think that's how their marketing team feels too? Like, Miller 64, who gives a shit?
Probably outside the Wisconsin area, nobody gives a shit. Nobody is running to the store for Miller 64.
That's true.
At least around here, I worked in retail.
Yeah.
I know. No one around here, again, I think there's only 2 places I can think of off the top of my head around here that sell even Miller 64.
Mm-hmm.
And the one place I used to work at, they used to sell Bud Select 55. But within a couple of months of me working there, they got rid of that.
Yeah.
Because nobody fucking bought it. Just sat on the shelf and rotted away.
Well, an interesting tidbit about Michelob Ultra, too, is that they do make a few flavored beers, like lime cactus. Good. And they've got another one, too, that's...
The pomegranate?
Yeah, the pomegranate. That's actually pretty good. But I prefer, the lime cactus. I think that's pretty good. That's almost, in itself a ghost. They've kind of brought the ghost to, generic beer drinkers. They're like, this is, because cactus is a big ingredient in a ghost beer. It's kind of, it gives that sour flavor to the ghost. So they're kind of inching that way towards this is almost a ghost, but don't tell anybody. I think it's pretty good, and I recommend people getting that.
You know what we should do? One of these days we should track down, because they don't make it anymore, Bud Black Crown.
Ugh.
Which I never had, or one that I did have that's not around any longer, Bud American Ale. Remember the American Ale?
Yeah.
When they got bought out by the European, Anheuser-Busch, and we're going to introduce an ale to these Americans, and they're going to discover how great ales are.
Yeah.
And people, it just sank and died a horrible death.
Yeah.
That was the Bud American Ale was the first beer I ever bought.
Oh, very
when
nice.
I turned 21.
What made you go out and think that you needed to buy that one?
It was because it just came out at the time.
You're like, let's try it.
So I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to take I know I'm not going to like this, but I took the... Awful.
Yeah.
I bought Guinness and I bought that. And I was like, this is... So I would love to track down some Bud American Ale.
I'm sure somebody has a 10-year-old Bud American Ale somewhere.
Be great.
Yeah.
I'll have to look on eBay.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'm sure it would be a fine old pack of American Ale, 10 years old. I don't know if it would be a accurate representation of what it would have been.
No, I'm sure it would have been.
I hope so. Yeah,
Maybe,
I'd like to try it.
Maybe try to track down some Jenny Fife and Drum.
There you go. That's a few years old, anyway. So, all right, let's move on to Demolition Man. Got some stuff to talk about here. Like I said, I have never seen Demolition Man before, so I wasn't really sure what to expect from it. And from the outset, you kind of get that feeling that this is more of an action comedy than just a straight up action film. And I think that actually, in the beginning, in that first scene, It's more of an action scenario where, you know, it's kind of like in that 90s mindset of like, well, you know, in the 90s, sometimes action scenes were kind of jokey. You know, they had the protagonist and the villain who were trading barbs, trading jokes and puns.
One-liners and puns everywhere.
That's right. So, like, that's not really that out of place in that scenario. But then once the film expands and really gets into its like, universe, its futuristic timeline, then you get a lot more of that comedy aspect of the film itself. And I think that was something that really drew me in rather than, you know, just the generic old action film with the blue tint and the, you know, two guys that are muscular and, you know, fighting back and forth and trading punches. That was something that really drew me into Demolition Man.
So I say it's even something they talk about in the film, like how Sylvester Stallone's telling his one old buddy, he's like, "Shit, man, I thought you were, you know, fucking dead." And they're like, why is he talking to him in such a profane manner? It's like, oh, that's how insecure heterosexuals used to talk to each other back then.
That's right, yeah.
It's like, you're 25 years ahead of the curve on that one, movie. Good job.
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why Demolition Man has survived as a cult classic for so long, is because it does seem to understand, like, the satirical nature of films at that time. You know, it's really contextualizing movies in the late 80s and early 90s, and then kind of even going further than that and showing how more futuristic audiences would see that kind of behavior. I think it's really interesting. It's almost like a sociological exploration of that. And then again, it's also exactly the kind of action film that you would expect from the time period. So, you know, it's both contextualizing and kind of doing doing a sociological study on the film, and then just doing it anyway. You know, like actually bringing that same kind of style to the film. So I think it's a pretty interesting idea, and I think that, like, you have a lot of the films at the time going deep into, like, futuristic timelines and exploring, like, the things that may occur in the future.
RoboCop.
Yep. RoboCop. We talked about Total Recall. And I think that this film, it very much sits in that realm. At the same time, though, it is very creative in the way that it brings that futuristic timeline into life. I mean, I think that when you're looking at it now, over like 25 years later, it's not that far off. Like, as we talked about in the introduction, it's not that far off from what we've created in time. I mean, what do you think? In the future, now, have we pretty much gotten to that point? Not obviously not like the cryogenic freezing and, you know, bringing people back to life after 20 or 30 years of being frozen in a cryogenic prison. But in a sense, we are in a similar scenario to like what Demolition Man presents.
No, I agree. It's part of the charm, especially now. I think I remember the first few times seeing this film thinking it's funny. Had some nice action. It was alright. It was like a early teen. Like I said, I was telling you when we're watching it. Used to play this movie all the time on TBS. I don't know if it was like a dinner and a movie type of thing. I don't think it was, but it was like a later at night. I caught it quite a few times. And I remember watching it and thinking, it's funny. It's got good action. But now, like, watching it, like, as time has gone on, watching it now, it's even funnier. Mm-hmm. It's even more on the nose. It's even more like, is this supposed, like, it makes you think, like, is this supposed to be satire? Or is it the humor that's like, oh, ha ha ha. And it just somehow, like, was able to, like, magically co-align with, like, how we are today.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, that's the amazing thing. It's like, is this what they were trying to go for or not? Because, like, you know, the overly politically correct, type of manner that everyone acts in San Angeles. Is that what they were supposed to be going for? That's like, oh, you know, that's what they think the future's going to be, or is like, oh, is that was like a guess?
Yeah,
and it just happened. Because when you think about it, movies made in 1993. From my memory of like the 90s, there's nothing that would hint towards us heading towards political correctness.
In that sort of context of like, you can't swear, you can't do anything bad.
Just
for
like
you.
overall in context, like I mean, like I know there are like certain things like I can't remember what the hell they replaced like fat and like chips with for like a little while, but it ended up like having people cause like having like diarrhea, and it was like awful for like the stomach. Oh, and they got rid of it, but like that's like something like kind of like hinting towards like, oh, we're gonna get rid of this because it's bad for you, so we're gonna put this in. Like you can eat all the chips you want and it won't hurt. Yeah, but I don't remember anything like as a kid like watching and thinking they're trying to go for like a man like, don't do that. That's microaggression, you know, type of
right.
thing, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually like we've gotten more towards that, but I mean, in the 90s, it's especially in 93, I don't really have that memory. But from historical standpoint, I don't know of anything like that. That would be like, you know, policing like behaviors that are bad for you, where it's like, no, you can't do, you know, you're not going to be able to do those anymore. I don't know about that so much in that time period, but we've now gotten to it like where it's like, you can't buy a supersized soda anymore. You know, because that's going to be bad for you.
Well, in the 80s and 90s, I mean, you got like Dare and like, you know, like, again, like late 90s is when you couldn't, like, you know, in New York, they banned smoking in restaurants.
True.
And my mom was pissed about that.
Yeah.
And like, so like, you know, like, used to like when you go to Pizza Hut, it's like, oh, smoking or non-smoking. And,
yeah.
You know, have to go to the fucking...
I remember that.
Oh, goddamn awful smoking section.
Your kids can't breathe? Oh, well.
You know, when they got rid of it, it's like, can't smoke in buildings anymore.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like an asshole, because, I mean, I don't really enjoy the smell of cigarette smoke. I feel like an asshole, like, walking into work, and there's people, like, smoking on the sidewalk next to the building. It's like, 50 feet away from the building, asshole. Smoke over in your little section. Get the fuck, you know.
Yeah.
I don't enjoy smelling your Newports.
Yeah. And it's honestly amazing how far that we've come, but also how much Demolition Man got right. You know, you're limiting that idea of like what's bad for you. You know, you're making it somewhat illegal. Obviously, not
getting
to
rid
the
of
same
personal choice.
Yeah, I mean, not to the same effect that Demolition Man has. Like, you can't have meat anymore in Demolition Man.
What an awful world.
Yeah, you can't make the conscious decision to smoke, even though that's bad for you. Because I gotta agree that, I mean, I think it's really stupid to start up like actively smoking now, in what we know, and also working in healthcare and everything like that. At the same time, though, I totally believe that you have the free choice to do it if you want to.
See, that's why we need to review Thank You for Smoking.
Right, yeah. But I mean, I totally agree that you have the free choice to do so as long as you're not harming others to do it. I mean, you can absolutely do it if you want, knowing the negative outcomes of it. So I don't agree that we always have to limit that in terms of...
Well, no, it's the same. It's like the same thing with like you go to the doctors, you're overweight and you got like high blood pressure and high cholesterol, and the doctor tells you need to stop eating like burgers and stuff and cut down salt, and they're not mandating that you
right,
do
exactly.
It. Like, hey, you keep doing that, you're gonna die. And you can be like, fuck you.
Right.
I like that burger.
That's like assigning like a counselor to that person later and being like, the counselor's like, you know what? I'm fucking legally mandated to stop you from eating that burger. So you touch that burger, I'm going to smack that out of your hands. You can't have that burger. And no, I mean, I totally don't agree with that sort of scenario. But, you know, obviously Demolition Man is getting towards that idea, and there had to have been some semblance, a seed of the idea that, yeah, this is going to occur, that, you know, we're limiting and trying to enforce the idea that smoking is bad, and we're going to kind of take it back to, you can't smoke in certain areas. I think that was probably, I mean, there's probably always that seed that was going to occur, but I do think that Demolition Man was right on with that, and also, very interesting how they enforced like a meatless society, and there was always that regime underneath that was like, no, we're not gonna adhere to that. We can do whatever we want to. All right, but enough about the societal implications of Demolition Man. What do you think about the actual film itself? Thoughts?
I think it's great. I love it.
Yeah, you were the one that really cued us in to do this one, so.
Yeah. Well, I said dread. But then you're like,
Well, you said Dredd, but I haven't seen Judge Dredd, so
but you don't have to
presented
see Judge Dredd.
For me, being
OC
OCD, it presented a complex, so we decided on Demolition Man instead. But tell me, why are you so in love with Demolition Man? Besides, like, obviously the societal implications we talked about.
Well, that makes it even better. But I like it. Even as a kid, I liked it because Wesley Snipes is a million balls of fun in this film.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, definitely.
He's like acting.
He's almost like Dennis Rodman, like in this film. He reminds me of Dennis Rodman at this time on the Chicago Bulls.
I think he's still in the Pistons in '93.
Maybe, yeah, that's true.
But still, he was still known for being eccentric.
Exactly.
He didn't have the fucking dyed hair and shit. But no, you're right. If you look at it, like later Dennis Rodman, like, yeah, it's. But no, he's like having so much fun in this film.
Yeah,
and he's just totally in spirit with it. It's great. It's amazing seeing Bob fucking Gunton coming off of Shawshank Redemption. Playing another old curmudgeon.
That's true.
Doing it well, but just, it's like, wow, yeah, like, typecast.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's pretty much the same role. Actually, I think he's a little bit more downplayed in this film.
No, he is. He's definitely a bit player, but to me, it's just funny because, Shawshank's one of the big movies of the 90s that people always look to and like, oh, yeah, what a great film that is. And, Bob Gunton's a big part of it.
Right.
And this one, he's just like, he just plays the police captain, but he's, instead of a warden, but he still has that gruff demeanor. Ben Bratt, before he became, a household name.
Yep.
He's got, like, a fun little goofy role.
Yeah, he does have a really goofy role.
As being Officer Alfredo Garcia.
Yeah, I mean, talk about the most ridiculous, like, generic name, stereotypical name.
Yeah, I wonder if the screenwriter's watching Peckinpah's Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia, and he's like, that's a character for this movie.
It does kind of sound like it was sort of, like, inspired by pop culture, because in general, Demolition Man is inspired by pop culture. A lot of it does have that sort of feel to it, like, satirical nature of it. Obviously, it knows a lot about action films and things that Stallone would generally star in, because it does make that reference to Schwarzenegger, President Schwarzenegger in Demolition Man, where...
And he's disgusted.
Yeah, Stallone is disgusted that Schwarzenegger would have become not only just like a very popular person in culture, but also the President of the United States. Again, very reminiscent of the future.
Because he becomes governor of California.
He becomes a governor.
Two-term governor of California.
I mean, obviously not a president, but a governor. Same thing with freaking Jesse Ventura.
He's in this because
he's in this as well.
Governor of Minnesota.
It's very interesting just to see like how much this film gets right from a future standpoint. But anyway, yeah, I mean, I think that idea that it's inspired in part by pop culture is certainly relevant. I don't know in the case of Alfredo Garcia if that's particularly, true,
I don't think it is, but I just find it funny because, everyone's such on polite terms in this future. They're all, referring to everybody by their full name, It's not just Sandra Bullock is Lieutenant Lena Huxley, they're not just
Lena Huxley, yeah.
Or like Lieutenant Huxley or Lieutenant Lena, they're like, oh yes, it's Lieutenant Lena Huxley coming around. And like, oh, how are you? Well, greetings, Alfredo Garcia. Instead of like, hey Al, or you know,
Right,
or,
exactly.
you know,
Yeah, there's no like surname abbreviations or anything.
no,
like that.
like that you would take for like camaraderie. It's very formal and
Yeah, and like I said, I think Sandra Bullock is playing a perfect part in this role. Not saying that Sandra Bullock is particularly like a bad actress, but I do think that she excels at that kind of robotic, formal wooden style that she has with Lenina Huxley. I mean, at the same time, she is very much into like the 90s, and in the same way that we have now with like people who are very like focused on the Beatles or things like that. You know, she's kind of in that same standpoint of, you know, 30 or actually 40 years prior, being very interested in the 90s and 90s culture, ingrained in that sort of past that we have. It's very similar to like what we have now.
But at the same time, that makes sense to me, because if you think about it, like trends in the 80s, what made a comeback in like the mid 80s,
Right.
50s. The Stray Cats were huge, you know, like you had like you know, slight like, you know, 50s revival. Neil Young puts out like a 50s rockabilly album. Mm-hmm. 90s, same thing. What became huge in the mid 90s? 60s pop culture. So like Austin Powers, Oasis, things like that. So, and you can see a little bit in the 2000s too, like a little bit of the 70s, you know.
Yep, exactly.
So,
and we're getting into the 80s with leggings and shit like that. So
yeah, it totally makes sense, because it's kind of, you know, it almost seems like, and it makes sense too, because if you think about it, you know, if you're a kid and your parents, you know, were like in their mid-20s when they had you, it would take, you know, like 30 years, and all of a sudden, like, you know, like, oh yeah, that's cool, you know,
right,
to kind of,
yeah. I mean, I definitely think it works. Like I said, I think Sandra Bullock does a really good job with Lenina Huxley. I think that she is, you know, intentionally, but also, you know, unintentionally, a very comedic aspect of Demolition Man itself. And really, the film is very funny. I don't really know what's its stronger point. Is it's action or it's comedy?
I think the comedy.
You think the comedy is more of a...
I think it's especially now, like, given like the time that we're in now, if you watch it, I think the comedy and the satire is much more of a stronger suit. Because the action, although good and well done in this film, there's nothing that's like, you know, be like, wow.
Yeah.
There's nothing that, like, when you think to, like, you know, like a specific action scene, like, that you would, like, if you had to think of any, like, action scene, like, you know, John McClane jumping off, you know, the Nakatomi Plaza as, you know, blowing up in the back. You're not going to get that from this film. But the comedy you are.
That's true.
Everybody knows the 3 seashells. Everybody knows the constant fighting throughout the entire film for cursing.
Yeah.
You know, everybody knows about fucking Taco Bell.
That's true, yeah.
So it's like, you know...
Yeah, the takeaway from this is, like, those moments, and which I will say are very creative. You've got to give credit to the screenwriters for this film, because those are very memorable moments. Like, you're going to come away from this film, even if you've never seen it before, even if you don't know about Demolition Man, you're going to come away thinking, like, every fucking restaurant in this film is Taco Bell. Like, that's something that stands out to you.
And it's like, again, it's like a small little point. They don't go into, like, detail. It's just thrown in there. And it's hilarious. Because, you know, you get the scene where Stallone, who we didn't mention, has the greatest generic action name of all time, and John Spartan. John Spartan saves the city governor, who is played by Nigel Hawthorne, who, again, great in this, as being a pompous, full of himself,
wearing a kimono,
Jedi robe kimono,
yeah.
schmuck as Dr. Kato, after he saves him from Wesley Snipes' character, Simon Phoenix. Yeah.
Also another great generic name, Simon Phoenix.
Yeah.
Rising Again.
Yeah.
The whole shtick, yeah. That's great.
No, it's totally perfect. He invites him to Taco Bell, and Stallone It's like, okay.
Yes, that's exactly. I gotta say, that's probably how I would have responded as well. Just kind of like, okay, yeah, sure, yeah, Taco Bell. I mean,
Which, okay, kind of preface this because we actually didn't even set this up properly, and that's our fault. We didn't even set this up properly because we got too sidetracked with talking about the societal things in this. The whole point of the film is, in the mid-90s, LA becomes a hellhole. If you think about, like, the early 90s, after, like, the Rodney King beatings and stuff like that, and all the rioting, and the OJ chase, and... it's probably not far off from what people thought LA was going to devolve into. Like, thinking, like, just gonna
and it's
burn itself to the ground.
It's not really that off from, like, other depictions of LA at the time. Of the same, like, sort of cityscape burning in hell.
Like 70s New York.
Yeah.
Just like the most wretched place on earth.
Obviously, that was what they thought of it at the time.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, fucking Los Angeles is a shithole.
Yeah, so in the mid-90s, you have John Spartan, your stereotypical macho man cop, chasing down Simon Phoenix, who is a, murderous asshole of a killer. And while tracking him down and arresting him, trying to save hostages, they both get put into cryostasis as punishment because the hostages that Stallone's character is supposed to rescue are dead. And stupidly, the courts believe Phoenix saying, like, he didn't care about it. I warned him about it, but he didn't care. They don't listen to this 20-year veteran cop about it.
To be fair, though, Spartan has the history of blowing shit up because you don't really care. So I mean, I know,
but you're right. He doesn't care like if shit gets blown. Because again, you have that great. It's one of the best scenes where you see they're showing footage of him in the future of what I can't believe we're gonna resurrect this guy from cryostasis. You get the scene where he's, after just saving this little girl, and you have a reporter following her, and she's like, how can you justify destroying this $7 million mini mall only to save this one little girl whose ransom was only $25,000? And the girl just goes, "Fuck you, lady."
Yeah. It is great. I mean, because it shows you exactly.
It's self-aware, how you see in action films, like all this ridiculous shit happen.
Not only that, but it does place a value on human life as this is our government who doesn't really care that much if human life that's not really worth that much money is destroyed, as long as we uphold a very expensive building, that's okay. I gotta say that in that initial scene where that building is blown up as John Spartan attempts to save all those hostages, and then is eventually arrested for it. If the film had said that was the White House, I would have believed it. You know what I mean? I would have. It looks that good in terms of the model and scale. I think it looks really good.
It's so compare that to Independence Day.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And I think that for the most part, Demolition Man gets those explosions right, which it should, because it's named. It's got demolition in the name. It really should get those explosions right, except for that final scene, which we won't really touch on right now at that point. But yeah, I think that is a strong aspect of the film, is that it sets up that rivalry between the two, between John Spartan and Simon Phoenix.
They have great barbs. And that's another thing, too. They have... Stallone and Snipes have great chemistry in this.
Yeah, they do.
Bouncing off of each other. Grant, you could say in this film, Stallone's kind of wooden. Which, for the most part, Stallone's pretty, wooden and boring.
That's kind of his shtick, though. That's kind of his thing.
That's his shtick. Outside of, the first couple of Rocky films.
Yeah.
Where, especially in, Rocky 1
he's got to have a little bit more emotion there. Yeah. But I think in this film, it works because John Spartan, in general, doesn't have that much emotion. He doesn't have...
And he shouldn't have to.
Right, exactly. He's not a thinker. He's more of a doer. Yeah. And that's, the entire point of him being the Demolition Man, is that he just does what needs to be done. Anything else be damned, because he's getting the job done. If it's saving a young girl, then he gets the job done. Doesn't matter if giant mini mall goes up in flames.
Go to your Orange Julius elsewhere, goddamn.
Exactly. I mean, I think that's the point, and I think in this case, it's totally they did a good job of making John Spartan be the very generic action hero, because that's kind of the satirical aspect of this film too. Like, they want to convey that while also benefiting from the fact that he is a generic hero that can kick ass and blow stuff up.
Yeah.
It's a perfect combination. You want to benefit from those people who are coming to the film just to see shit blow up, but you also want to benefit from those people who are critical thinkers who are like, this has something to say about our society at the time. You know, you have both of those things. I think it's a perfect combination. It's the same way as RoboCop.
Yeah.
Which has that critical side where you're thinking, you know, do we want a police force that is like unstoppable and can do all these things? At the same time, you also have that, you can totally disregard that and just think, wow, that's pretty cool that shit blew up and he got shot 50 times and, you know, they had to rebuild him and shit. That's pretty cool. You know, you have both of those things. I think that's why they're so successful. It's in the same realm. It works.
No, I totally agree.
Yeah. I will agree that I think that the comedy is the better aspect of this film. Like you said, the action scenes are really not that bad. I think they're well blocked. I think sometimes some contemporary films could take some cues from this film.
As we said with the Ghost in the Shell.
Mm-hmm.
Totally right.
But I think that the comedy aspect is a lot better just because it's not only creative, but it's also, I would say, continuous. Like, and also consistent. There's a consistent joke running throughout the film. Like you said, with the swearing, with the cursing, you're constantly getting fined.
Which is the best part of this film. Best, because again, I love the fact with this film, they stuck to it. It so easily could have been this future, quote unquote, utopia. You know, where they ban everything that's bad for you, including like cursing. You can't curse. If you curse, you get fined for it because you have monitors all around you, constantly monitoring you. So anytime you curse, you instantly get fined for it.
Right.
They easily could have done like a one and done or a two and done with like Phoenix curses and he gets fined and he's like, fuck you, and like blows the machine up. And the same thing was like, do the same thing with like Stallone's character, but then maybe not have him like, you know, react differently because he's not going to be, you know, like, I'm going to destroy the machine for it. But they don't. They stick to it the entire film. Anytime either Stallone or Snipes curses within a building that has some kind of sensor around it, they're fine. And you even hear, like, just, like, muffled in, like, the background, like in the middle of a fight scene, like, you'll hear someone like, oh, fuck, you know, I'm gonna fucking get you. And you'll hear, like, John Spartan, you're fine. 1 credit for...
Yeah.
And it's great that they did that. It's literally fucking hilarious. It's brilliant.
That's the thing that really makes Demolition Man stand apart from other films, is that it does do that even when it's not noticeable. Because there are scenes where it's not real. I mean, you're not really gonna. You can't really hear it that well. Where it's like you can just hear that little the sound of like of the buzzer going off. But you know, that's the thing. They could have easily just skipped out on that and not done it anymore, or made an excuse. Whereas, like, you know, John Spartan is now part of the police force, so they don't do it for him. Something like that. They could have made an excuse to not do it, but instead they stuck to it, and they really made that a running joke. It's a great part of this film. It's actually really important too, because it shows just how much the government and, you know, any other governing body is interfering in personal life. Yeah, because it doesn't just happen in like government buildings. It happens everywhere. It happens in Taco Bell. Even if like it's in a conversation with multiple people and it's very loud in that facility, you're still getting fined on the back end. Like, they know that you said that word. It helps create that universal theme of, like, you're always watched. Like, they always have tabs on you. There's always some sort of governmental, watch on you that is controlling how you behave. And I think that really sells the reality of Demolition Man. And not, even though they tell you, like, yeah, the government watches everything, we're bound to, like, not doing anything that's bad for us because it's illegal. That sells that point. That you can't even swear because they're going to fine you every time you do it. But at the same time, I think that's really interesting how they bring in the aspect of the underground dwellers, led by Dennis Leary's character, Edgar Friendly, who is the main, is supposed to be the antagonist of the film, but actually becomes more so
he's a red
another red herring in it, a kind of hero.
Though he's not even a red herring, because it's made like pretty clear off from the get-go. Before you meet Cocteau's character, you hear you have a little sequence where Wesley Snipes is trying to think of what he's supposed. Because when you're put in cryostasis.
You can still experience things.
Not only that, they reprogram your mind to be retrained. So when Stallone comes out, which the whole reason why they bring Stallone out to begin with is to track down Simon Phoenix, who was let out early and ended up killing a bunch of people. Is the whole reason is that while you're in that stasis, they implant you with a different type of skill that's going to make you valuable to society. So Stallone gets seamstress. Simon Phoenix gets weapons, hacking, and other fun assassin techniques because of what's going on in the plot. So it's funny to see that, and then the fact that they kind of stick with that too, like they don't drop that whole seamstress thing with Stallone. They kind of stick with that,
right?
But yeah, you have a group of underground people who have kind of rejected this, society that's a utopia in a sense, but it's all dictated on the fact that anything that's bad for you has been banned. That's how.
Yeah, choice.
Yeah, choice is. I mean, there's choice, but it's very limited. Where in Dennis Leary's lovely Paradise Underground, it's all about you just get freedom. It's a libertarian paradise. If you want to eat burgers and clog your arteries, God bless you, you can. It's the early 90s Dennis Leary stick.
Yeah.
If you ever seen Dennis Leary's comedy from that time, and probably today, because I imagine...
Well, I think he's probably gotten a little bit more refined.
I don't even think he does stand up anymore.
Yeah, I don't know about...
I think after Rescue Me, he's
pretty much more
counting
producing.
He's counting his FX dollars.
Producing credits, but... Yeah, I mean, I think that this is, really Dennis Leary refined into movie form. Edgar Friendly is... A lot of his dialogue seems straight up Dennis Leary comedy. As though it's delivered as a stand-up performance. I would assume, maybe I'm wrong, but some of that dialogue was probably improv.
They probably didn't give him a script. They probably just told him.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like that's something that Dennis Leary would say.
They just I think that especially that one bit where they finally meet him underground. They probably didn't even give him a script for that, bro. Just do what you do.
Yeah,
that's why you got cast. You just do your whole,
Yeah, but I mean, it makes sense because Dennis Leary, he's often politically incorrect, but also. I would say on the right side of politics and just in ensuring that people have the right to choose, but also the safety to do so. In this film, his character is very much about, having the freedom to choose for yourself, but at the same time, he opposes the governmental restrictions on what has been placed, which is basically you can't do anything that would possibly put someone in danger. And it's the film, its themes really find that that is not an appropriate response because, first of all, you don't have a police force that can handle it. As the film shows, like none of their police force is ready to handle any sort of violent threat.
And that's another great scene where you first have the cops run into Phoenix, and they're trying to convince him, because they haven't run into a violent occurrence like that in 22 years. So, like, what do I do? And like, he's holding like his eye tablet, and it's like got stick figures doing like assertively asked, the perpetrator to lie down on the ground. And he's like, sir, I need you to lie down on the ground. And then he's like, fuck you, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
And then he's like, ask the tablet. He didn't do that. What do I do now? Ask more assertively, like, to do that. Or, there's going to be repercussions. And so he does that, and still not. It's hilarious, because it's almost like a great counterpoint to, like, today's media when you see, like, things about cops. And this, it's like, we don't know how to react to, offenders such as this. And today it's almost like, we don't know how to react to offenders like that, too. We just pull our guns out and shoot.
Right. I mean, now, today, if it was Wesley Snipes and he was not responding to demands, then they just shoot him and the movie's over. But, like in this, I do find that the film has like that middle ground where it's like, well, you can't have everything totally demanded to you and like you are forced to follow like specific rules where you don't have any free choice whatsoever, but you kind of have to meet in the middle ground. And that's exactly how the film ends. Is the police force questioning like, well, where do we go from here?
As they like had like the urchins from the underground come up, and after Kato's death and Phoenix's death, and they're like, oh, what do we do now? And Stallone's like, look, you cops, like people of like San Angeles, you need to stop being so prim and proper and controlling and demanding of like how you live your life. Urchins, you gotta clean up your act. You gotta have more control.
Yeah.
And then he's just like, I don't know, you'll figure it out. And that's it. And it's like, ow.
Yeah, I mean it's a good point though, because the film brings up the fact that
there is no good answer to be.
Exactly. There's no good answer. Edgar Friendly's ideas are kind of drastic.
They're both extreme.
Yeah, but then again, you have the Cocteau's company, who he's enlisting a hardened and violent criminal to take action because he feels like he needs to set an example.
He needs to kill him to make his utopia perfect.
Exactly.
Which goes against the whole idea of his utopia. Great, I will say it's kind of a flaw in the film is the fact that Cocteau is in Phoenix, though I wouldn't say as much as Phoenix. I'd say Cocteau's more of the villain because he's the mastermind. Mm-hmm. He's, he wants to create this utopia so he can control it, so he can have power, so it can be in his vision. So he has that power. Phoenix is just nothing but a tool. He's nothing but an asset. So I wouldn't even say Wesley Snipes' character is even really the main villain in this film.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, he's just living off of instinct. So there's nothing really, that drives him. Especially when you get to the future and his whole drive for killing Dennis Leary's character is just based off of what he was programmed to think. Which is derived by Cocteau. So Cocteau is the real villain in this because he's trying to control that. So, I mean, the stances between Cocteau and Friendly aren't, as drastic and, pitting against one another because it is leaning more towards Friendly's version.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think
of Dennis Leary's side of truth. Because, again, that's where Sylvester Stallone comes from. That's what, he can be grounded more into, too, is like, it's basically the underworld is like life as
regular life.
Yeah, except you might starve because it's underground and there's no real food to go around. But at least you have choice to how to live out your life. So though there is that dichotomy, and you get to see the compare and contrast in that. It's definitely leaning towards Dennis Leary's side of thought, because it's not. There's nothing in it that, to me, except like in the beginning, that suggests like, oh, he's like a villain or he's wrong. It's more like Cocteau's wrong because his utopia isn't a utopia; it's a dystopia.
You're right.
But at least Leary, he's extreme, but he has valid points.
Yeah, and I think that comes out in the film itself, because you have John Spartan siding with Dennis Leary and his group for most of the film. In the beginning, or, well, not actually the beginning, it was more like the middle when he's at Taco Bell and there's that attack on Taco Bell where they're trying to steal all of the food. You have him later responding like, you can't fight against people who are just who are hungry, who are trying to take food for themselves because they're starving. But then also you have him kind of siding with them later when he's down in the underground and he feels more at home there than he does up top on the regular level, eating rat and okay with it because it tastes good, and getting
it's a burger. Yeah,
it's a burger, and getting a beer because he hasn't had one in 30 years, and he can do that down underground. I do think that the film sides a little bit more with Edgar Friendly's side of things, because it's not as limited as the utopian society that Cocteau creates. And I've got to agree with that. I'm all for like a peaceful, loving society, but at the same time, you can't have people who don't have free choice for themselves, because that's an ingrained ability in humans. And when you take that away, you have dissent, and this is just not a possibility at that point. There's always going to be people who are going to have dissent with the opinions.
Well, just imagine if somebody's like, you can't have steak anymore.
Exactly.
I'd be like, fuck you.
Yeah, I know. It's just not something that you can practically avoid. And I think that that Demolition Man, even though it's an action comedy, even though that it seems very cheesy at times. You got Rob Schneider in here chewing up every goddamn scene that he's in as much as possible. Even though it's a cheesy film, you've got those heavy-hitting themes that really make it a more memorable film than it really even should be. I think it works. We haven't talked about what haven't we talked about? The soundtrack. Well, yeah, Rob Schneider. The soundtrack for one thing, because we always try to we like to talk about the soundtrack a little bit. Very
unmemorable.
Yeah, unmemorable, but at the same time,
outside of the one little piano riff that's like, as I told you, it sounds like the Super Mario Brothers World 1, 2 underground theme, like a do-do-do-do-do-do.
Yeah.
Except sped up on a piano, so it's like for the fight scenes.
That, and also that one scene where Wesley Snipes' character, Phoenix, is fighting outside for the first time with those cops, and there's kind of like this weird R&B
style. Oh my god, that's so early 90s.
Yeah.
Like just rap thrown in when he's like fighting the cops, like bust a move.
Yeah, it's a very strange and off-kilter scene, I gotta say that. But other than that, yeah, the soundtrack itself is pretty unmemorable, but that was a weird part that stuck with me.
Delightful, though. It was
delightful, I guess, but also very strange and unnecessary. I don't know.
I just love how the film. It has so many great little bits. The whole I love how the society's set up, because it is a great kind of juxtaposition to Star Trek, where the whole idea behind Star Trek is in the future, mankind will have all disease and all war and all violence wiped out from society. It will be a peace-loving utopia, and then we'll reach for the stars to extend that to the rest of the universe.
Mm-hmm.
And I just love that because, like, when they're driving around their cars and how it looks like, and the way they dress, it's like, man, it's like they were watching Star Trek, and it's like, you know what? It might be a little bullshit there, you know. And I just find it funny because, like, you know, like, because in Star Trek, San Francisco is the capital of the Earth Federation.
Right.
So you know. L.A. and San Fran, like, kind of like how it looks sometimes, like how the way they shot it looks kind of similar.
Well, yeah, and in this film, they've kind of combined together into San Angeles, so...
Well, not San Francisco, San Diego, but...
They've kind of combined California into one, like, super entity.
Yeah, but, I mean, I just find that to kind of be like... I don't know if that was intentional or not, like, they were, like, watching, like, Star Trek Next Gen at the time, like, oh, yeah, fuck you, this is what we're gonna do.
Yeah.
And... I also love. I really do love in this film how you get to see just kind of especially now, like, kind of going back to, like, the whole, like, talking about satirization, just kind of how, like, certain things, like, it gets so right on the nose.
Mm-hmm.
So for today. The manner they talk. It's awesome. It's brilliant. Words in the 90s that people weren't even using.
Mm-hmm.
Being used in the future. You know, like, you know, mellow day to you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what seems to be your boggle?
Yeah, or what's the one about keeping calm?
Mellow, you know, check your emotion, you know.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, check your hormones or
just like things like that. It's like, God, that fits so perfectly with, like, today, with, like, you know, if you think about, like, how South Park got so much criticism for the recent season about, like, you know, political correctness, and that was, like, the whole overarching theme of, like, season 21. It's like, oh, is that a microaggression, brah? You know, that's what this is, but it's 20 years earlier. They're doing, like, you know, like, oh, you can't do, you know.
Yeah.
And it's like I said, it's fucking great. How they were able to, like, kind of encapsulate that. The only thing that would make it even better if, like, somewhere in there they were able to fit, like, you know, online trolling to make it even more relevant.
That's true. I gotta bring up one qualm that I have with Demolition Man. Is that I think that in the middle portion, Wesley Snipes' character is a little bit missing from the action. So you have John Spartan experiencing the future and, you know, seeing the differences in how they lived their life then and then, you know, comparing it to how they used to live. You know, you have him experiencing sex and things like that. But you're missing that aspect of, like, what Simon Phoenix is doing in the meantime.
Besides getting a gun.
Exactly, besides getting a gun. I do think that that's sort of a misstep with the film, because I think that it would have been a little bit more interesting if they had explored Phoenix actually building up his empire, you know, getting underground, building up that sort of idea that there are other people underground who are wronged, well, in their eyes, wronged by John Spartan.
Yeah.
And, you know, giving that a little bit more screen time, because I think that he's missing for a majority of that middle portion, and it kind of drags in that, and not drags so much, whereas you're like, wow, I wish he was back on screen, but you're missing that aspect of Simon Phoenix's character as he's building up that, you know, that base, that group of people who are gonna oppose.
I mean, see, I agree, but at the same time, my biggest qualm with this film is the world building. I think they do such a great job in, like, building this futuristic utopia in San Angeles and setting up its rules and how it is and how it contrasts the, you know, 90s LA.
Mm-hmm.
I think where it fails, though, is the fact that it's only 40 years, almost 36 years in the future.
Right.
Which makes no sense. So you're telling, because there's a lot of characters that you meet in this film that's like, you lived the 90s, you experienced it, and it's like you act like you didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's like, no, that was
Yeah, I mean, I think that's...
So that to me is just like annoying. It's like what you should have done is, because again, there's no reason, because this movie's made in 1993 and it starts off in 1996. There's no reason to think like, oh, cryo prison's this normal thing. It could be like, make it explore it more, like make it like some secret prison that the state's running for like special inmates type of thing, like a special program. And, make it set for like 700 years. And then instead of like 700 years, it's like 500, 200.
Right.
Yeah, at least 200 years. Where that kind of societal change can become believable. Because only 40 years into the future, I mean, I understand things change fast. But again, like you have so many people within this city that experience that, the time that he's from.
Yeah, it would be hard to enforce that ruling.
Yeah. Like his one old pilot buddy that he gets to meet. He's just like one day like, hey, you can't have sex anymore. It's against the law. And he's just like, oh, okay. He just stopped fucking his wife. And you're like, oh.
I mean, I do agree.
Can't do that anymore, honey.
I see it both ways, because I do see that society changes really fast, and we've obviously changed a lot since the 70s and 80s. But at the same time, you're right. I mean, a lot of people who live that life, who had those experiences, you would think would be very hesitant to accept this new society that's so governed.
Well, especially the way like people are. Nobody who's old, doesn't matter what generation, doesn't matter. People who are old, they don't like change. They know what they they know what they want. They know what they experience. Well, they know what they like and they don't like.
I mean, imagine trying to enforce people to be acceptable to gay marriage right now, and you say like, well, if you speak out about it, you're gonna get fined for it. There would be a lot of older people who would not be okay with that.
Well,
I mean,
let's say, to be fair, that's kind of a bad choice, just because that's an issue that's kind of progressed pretty quick.
Well, yeah, but
especially like the past 5 years.
I mean, I'm saying that it would be hard to enforce in the same way that it would be hard to enforce saying like, well, you can't swear anymore, or you can't drink the beer that you like anymore.
Well, they have cameras for that.
No, even so, they have cameras. They would have cameras for if you were to say like, well, I don't like gay marriage. I think it's the same sort of idea where you try to enforce like for a particular group of people, you can't do this anymore. I think you would have a huge outcry and so you're right when you say like you need to go up like 200 years in the future. Whereas, in that scenario, people who opposed it died off, and people who grew up with it are kind of like, okay, it's always been the thing that I've grown up with, so I'm okay with it. 200 years makes more sense than like only going 40, and now the future has changed so drastically, that our protagonist and antagonist can't really identify with that time period. 40 years doesn't seem like too much, though. I'm not 40, so I haven't experienced that much change yet. But
I mean, even if you did 200 years and you wanted to have the moment where he meets like somebody he used to work with, you could do that, because then you could explain like he's like one of the few people that's like
they were cryogenically frozen.
Well, not no, he wasn't genetically frozen. You could have him be like decrepitly old, and just be like, aging's got so far. You could live to be 200 years old.
That's true.
It's rare, but it happens, and you could have him walking around, you know, like, oh, you know, I remember when you used to get, you know, fuck your wife without, you know, the cops banging on your door, but can't even do that. Can't even put it in the asshole anymore.
That's true.
But they don't. So, and the whole reason they did, like, 36 years almost seems like they did it because they wanted to have a moment where he's like, oh, I got to, you know, talk to that one random guy that was right at the beginning that you don't really get to know at all.
Yeah, that's true.
Even though Bob Gunton's fucking from that same time period, and the warden, and no, they've all...
Apparently doesn't care.
Yeah, brother. I don't remember those years at all.
Yeah. Anything else that you want to bring up about Demolition Man before we get to the rating?
Armor hot dogs.
That is a pretty funny aspect of it. Did they, you know, in the future, they foresee that they pick up our commercials as catchy jingles that they want to
listen to?
Yeah, they get stuck in their heads basically. I mean, like I said, it's not that far off from what we have now with Vaporwave, reusing older jingles and tunes and, you know, 80s music and commercials as art forms.
Well, they're doing that now, and like the
right,
like you said, talking about like Ghost of the Shell, like you know Depeche Mode's song,
yeah,
you know, and then now with like Justice League, we're gonna take the Beatles, come together, and make it 2017.
Yeah, you're reusing that idea, but then like making it a little more
bastardized.
Yeah, I guess you could say that. Sometimes, like you said, with the Depeche Mode cover, it's not really bastardized so much as an interesting take on the sound.
Well, to be fair with that, that's like Depeche Mode's like a new wave band, so
True.
like kind of like a slower, like electronic, you know, type song fits it. It's an evolution in the process.
Yeah,
the Beatles come together and do whoever the hell did the song for the Justice League trailer is like, you know, points been missed by a mile and a half. The evolutional traces cannot be found.
that's true.
And that's the point.
But I think, yeah, I mean, I think that the idea that, you know, in the future they may find our short jingles more catchy than
we don't even have jingles
regular
anymore.
Pop songs. Yeah, not generally. Not,
like,
I mean, not
all
a lot.
commercials you just license songs now.
Radio spots may have jingles, but
I can't even think of like at least TV commercial that's not local. That's like actually national.
Old Spice has sort of a jingle.
You can't make that into a song though.
No, but I'm just saying, like, there are certain sounds.
Okay, I lied. You can somehow stretch that into a song.
You're right.
I just not
like some of them do, but yeah, I mean, I don't think it's much of a stretch to think that like in the future, you know, as our attention spans wane, you're more interested in like, well, let's just hear a 30-second jingle rather than like a 3-minute song. I mean, it makes sense. So it's a pretty interesting concept. All right, so out of 10, I'm having a difficult time coming up with a rating scale here.
Out of 10 seashells.
Sure, out of 10 seashells, what would you give Demolition Man?
I'll give it an 8.
8 out of 10?
8 out of 10.
All right.
I think it's a very good action film. I think it's like I said, I think it's pretty smart. I don't know if the satire is intentional or not when it comes to the futuristic aspects, at least. There's some of the satire that is, you can tell is intentional, but I don't know when it comes to like future-wise if it's intentional or not. Whether it is or not doesn't even matter though, because it's so well and hits today's, you know, things that are happening today so well that you just can't ignore it. I think everybody in this film, besides Sandra Bullock, who I'll say is the worst part, though. You are right, she does do a good wooden, dull personality. That's the problem with her, is just being dull, wooden, and personalityless. But I do think even Sylvester Stallone, who's just being dull himself, he is enjoyable. Mm-hmm. Wesley Snipes is a delight in this film. So is Nigel Hawthorne and Bob Gunn. Great. Just in how they are throughout the entire film. I do love the premise of this film. I think it's actually a really good premise. Mm-hmm. I just wish, for the sake of it making more sense, that they stretch the timeline out on more. But I do love the world they build. I do love the message that it's trying to send. And I do love its playfulness. It's one of those campy, corny films. Though I'm not the biggest fan of campy and corny films. It's one that's great because it knows what it is and it does it well. The one-liners in this are great. They're hilarious. The one of the first one-liners in this film is one like that's ends up turning out to be that's the one-liner that's gonna get that guy killed.
Yeah. And
so yeah, at least like again, they're paying attention.
Yeah.
They're keeping continuity. And you can't say that with a lot of these films. So
yeah, I mean, I agree. I think 8 out of 10 is fair. I like the continuity, like you said. I think that the comedic aspects really come out in this film. Action scenes are also really well done. I think that the special effects are, for the most part, pretty well done.
Except near the end where you can tell the budget's running low.
Yeah, exactly. I like, both John Spartan and Simon Phoenix. I think they have a good relationship between each other and a dichotomy between what they both believe in. I think that Demolition Man is a really creative film in general, and I think that the writing reflects that. Not only with its kind of futuristic ideas, but also just the creativity of the plot itself. At the same time, I do feel like they skimped a little bit on Simon Phoenix's storyline in the middle of the film and kind of left out some of that exposition in favor of John Spartan and giving Sylvester Stallone a little bit more screen time. But at the end of the day, I think that this film is it's a fun film. It has a lot of thematic resonance, not only at the time, but now watching it in the future and kind of recognizing the things that it brings up and the things that have come to light through the years that have really mimicked what Demolition Man had to say at the time. So it's a kind of a surprising film itself too, of how accurate it was at depicting the future. And so I think it's a really fun film, and anybody who hasn't experienced it, who really likes those action and comedic films of the time, because as we see in the film itself, there's a poster of Lethal Weapon 3 in there, kind of hinting at some of the...
Surprised we didn't even mention that.
Yeah, no. Kind of hinting at some of the I guess you would say, things that helped influence the film, but also, also commenting on what the film is making fun of and satirical nature of the film. It's really for fans of those films, the action films of the 90s, but also the comedic films that it's making fun of. So, yeah, 8 out of 10 really sounds like a fair assessment of Demolition Man to me. And I'm glad to have seen it. Thank you for putting me on
Well,
this
it's
film.
about time.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you for putting me on this film, because I don't know that I would have gone out of my way to see it.
Well, see, like most people, I don't lead people astray when it comes to suggestions.
That's right. It was a good suggestion, and I'm glad we got to cover it for the film. Fits right in with our Die Hard film coverage, and not really Death Wish, but...
No, that's...
it's a little bit more...
Until you get to, like, Death Wish 3 and 4, it's not action, it's revenge.
Exactly.
Totally different.
Yeah.
Totally a whole different genre of film.
All right, so next week we have on tap... What?
I don't know.
I think we should cover Long Weekend.
Okay.
I am very, we're getting to that time period. It's been very nice and hot, I guess, in upstate New York.
Yeah.
We've reached the 80s at some points.
We went to 87 degrees, and now we're back down to 45.
Yeah. I mean, obviously spring is here. I'm interested in covering Long Weekend. It's not one that's really well known. It's an exploitation film that is like a When Animals Attack style film. Severin Films released it. I'm sorry, not Severin. Synapse Films released it on Blu-ray about a year ago. Watched it, loved it. Very fun film. Very atmospheric and moody. So I think that is a perfect combo for this podcast because we love to cover that sort of thing.
Now, is there any Easter horror films?
There are a few Easter horror films. They're very low budget, so and we're already actually this Sunday is Easter, so it would be past time.
Well, that's what we do.
We missed it.
That's what we do. We're always a
little late on that.
A little behind.
I think we should cover Long Weekend next week.
No, I was just wondering.
I really enjoy this film, so we're gonna get a lot.
If there was some kind of slasher film involving Easter,
there is. I mean, there are, but they're low budget indies. But
aren't those the best?
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Now I think about it, I can't wait till September rolls around.
What is that?
Saw.
Oh yeah, we got the new Saw film.
Halloween.
It's probably gonna be October, to be honest with you.
I think the poster I saw was like upcoming Halloween, horror films and.
Could be. It could be September. I think they generally release them in October. Maybe they're trying to for a little bit earlier release date.
Is that new Halloween coming out this year too?
I don't know about that. I don't know if they're gonna have it ready for this October.
You said it's supposed to be a direct sequel to Halloween 2, right?
It's what they're saying.
Because I saw the poster for it. Like I said, saw it on Facebook. Somebody is a posting like different horror film posters.
Right.
And it had the sequel to The Conjuring 3 and Saw 8. Which I am actually now I think about it, I am looking forward to Saw 8. I'm I just can't wait to see what the fuck they do.
I'm assuming you kind of think how did they update it? Now
because it can't
10 years since we've seen the original the past Saw film. So how is it different? Did they change up the color scheme?
Well, yeah, it's not green anymore.
Yeah.
No, but it's not at least with that, I'm interested because it's man, it can't be a reboot because it's called Saw 8, so they're not rebooting.
Yeah.
But I mean, the Halloween posters, I saw that and that made me interested.
Yeah.
So it's if that is a direct sequel to the original Halloween 2, it's okay, I will be able to get aboard that. But. Mm-hmm. The new Nightmare poster, I didn't really think too much of because it's
right.
Same thing with the Freddy one, and not the Freddy, the Jason one. It's
yeah.
But if those two both come out, I'll definitely go see.
Yeah, definitely interested in seeing that. Next weekend, I think, next week we're covering Long Weekend, and from there, anybody's guess. We do want to cover a 90s slasher series.
Not necessarily a series, but do a couple of different ones.
A couple of Urban Legend is
Thank you for saying that, because that was one I was kind of thinking. Because I was we should naming the ones that we should do. That's one. That's
Urban
the one.
Legend. I Know What You Did Last Summer. Some of those, obviously some of those that are not Scream. We would do
those late 90s classics.
That's right. I mean, I'm super interested in doing that, so I think that would be one that would be really fun to do.
I would really love to do I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Yeah, absolutely.
'Cause that's
it's been a long time since I've seen that, so that'd be one that I'd be interested in doing as well. I think it would be fun. So I think that's on the horizon. I think we'll be doing that shortly. But next weekend, look for. I keep saying next weekend, but I mean next week because we post on Thursdays. Look for Long Weekend because that'll be the next episode. Thanks for listening. check us out on iTunes, which is probably where you're listening to us. Obviously, we're up on there, and you can subscribe and review us and give us a nice review. We really appreciate that. We're also on Stitcher. And on Stitcher, you can review us, give us a star rating. That one's not as used as much, but we hope you're listening to us in any way possible on any podcasting app. We're also on Facebook, facebook.com/bloodandblackrum podcast. You can like us on there. You can comment on us and all that jazz. And we hope you like us because we do post updates on there. We're on Twitter, twitter.com/bloodandblackrum, N in the middle, just so you know. We do tweet on there. Hopefully, you follow us and retweet us, so we really appreciate that. It helps us get us noticed. And we are also on Patreon, patreon.com/bloodandblackrum podcast. There you can help us fund the podcast because this is an endeavor that we do for free right now. So you can donate to us. That is once a month. So if you donate $5, it's $5 a month. Just keep that in mind when you think about your donation. But that helps us fund the podcast. It helps us keep us running. Because we do this for free. So anything that you can donate really helps us out, and we really appreciate that. You can email us at bloodandblackrumpodcast@gmail.com, and you give us any film suggestions you want us to cover or any criticisms that you have of us, and we'll definitely keep that in consideration. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks for listening to Blood and Black Rum Podcast. We will be back next week with Long Weekend. And other than that, Martin, you got anything to add before we end this podcast?
Not at all.
All right. Well, have a good week. We will see you next week. Hopefully you tune back in for us for Long Weekend. Take care.
See you.